Hello, everybody. This is Adrian Plus here.
For a surprise. And
Yes,
Bridget, hello.
unusual, isn't it? And
What number are we on?
we're number 273, which I just worked out is more than 5 years, and you said it can't be,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
is.
that's the end of this recording.
Otherwise
then we
we
can go and
just
wait and have a nice
pretended to-
argument about that.
Otherwise, we just pretended we did them all, but we did. Anyway, there it is, 273. And this...
Oh, and we did have, about the Guinness Book of Records.
Oh, yeah.
We
yeah.
had one person email to say she thought she should be in our Guinness Book of Records because she thinks
Yeah.
she's listened to every single one since we
That's
began.
right. She said she's...
So, well done you.
Not only has she listened to every single one, she's responded
To lots.
of them.
Yeah. But there you go. There's
Well,
one
yeah,
thing
so
for
I
Guinness
think-
Book of Records.
I think, I don't know this, but that person, you know who you are. You may well have that record, but there may be somebody else sitting out there who says, no,
they
you
can't
don't.
have listened to more than,
Well, they might have listened to all the early ones.
or all
Yeah.
of them twice.
Yeah.
Or something.
Anyway, enough of that.
Totally mad person.
This weekend, we're going to be doing a weekend which is
At Scargill House.
at Scargill House in Yorkshire, which is, a lot of it is about Paul, because it's based on something Paul said, which we won't go into at the moment.
Oh, you're not
But
going to go into that.
No,
You
no, I
don't think
don't
you
so.
Oh, go on.
Well, I could mention it. Well, Paul says, with a passion that speaks right through the words, and it's unusual for that. Not with Paul, because he does write passionately, but there's something in it that just is a flame. It's amazing. It's about the fact that if he needs to go under the law, he'll go under the law. If he needs to be attacking, defending himself against whatever he needs to be, that is necessary and useful for helping people to get what they need most, he will do it. And unpacking that is a very interesting task, and that's
Because
what we're
essentially
planning
he's
to do.
talking about it being his choice, his decision to do this. This is not a law imposed upon him,
Not
and
at
he
all,
doesn't
no,
actually
no.
want that law, the law that he grew up with, or the laws, the multitudinous number of laws that he grew up under. He doesn't want that.
No, it is. I tell you what it is. It's a necessity, because if you want to take people to a different place, you have to start with them where they are. Now we know that, and that's become almost a mantra in church circles. But it's more that you actually become the person required, and sometimes that will be someone who's not really like you, which is what I'm particularly interested.
It really set me off thinking about laws and the reduction of laws to a point that they are maybe accessible. Our grandson has just started school, hasn't he? Looking very small in his too big uniform. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children setting out in uniforms that are far too big for them to allow for growth and going into a totally new world. And I was thinking how important it is for those in charge to think, what are the rules that they really need to understand? What is the knowledge they need? I mean, they need to know where the toilets are, for starters. But what are the rules? And I remembered, this is so early on you wrote this. Just read the first part of this poem, because
When I was a small boy.
when in a small school.
When I was a small boy in a small school with endless legs and ears that widely proclaimed a head full of emergencies, when I clung by bleeding fingertips to 33 plus 9, and cognitive dissonance was just a hard sum. There were only 2 crimes. The first was shouting in the corridors. The second was to be a fool.
So the first imposed upon you, and the second the deep fear within you, presumably.
Well, that it was easier to be a fool, if necessary, than to try and then to expose my foolishness, my genuine. I don't know.
But
I
this
can't.
is-
But I remember that feeling very, very
It's
well.
triggered off a couple of thoughts in me, and one of them is a church weekend that we led, Adrian, years ago for our friend Phil's church, and it had a large West Indian-based congregation. It was a wonderful church and full of life. And we went away to a church weekend where there were don'ts on every wall and every
You mean
door
from the
and
old?
every...
No, but you mean from the establishment?
Oh, from the establishment.
No, it's important, isn't it?
No, it's very
that
important.
ran the place, not
That
the
ran the
people
place.
attending it. Yeah.
No, so these people who, the children I'm thinking of, who've come away for something new and exciting. Some of them not having been away before, and certainly a lot of them not having been to anything that is in something with inverted commas Christian round it. It was all don't. And then I was thinking about what happened, what the big problem was for the leaders the ones I'm thinking of are the ones in Jerusalem, where James, brother of Jesus, was sort of heading it up. And they've got all these people who are not Jews joining the way because of Paul's ministry and
Joining
Saul
the
and
Christian faith.
Joining the Christian faith.
Yeah.
What do they do? What do they do with all of the rules? Do they just say you don't have to do... It's all right, everything's fine. You don't have to do anything, really. You just carry on. These are people who, by tradition, would worship idols, for starters, would have little gods in their homes.
Yeah, they would.
And
Some of
if
them,
you have a
yeah.
chance to look at it, there is a letter sent to them which we're told they received with overwhelming joy,
Sent
by this leadership
council.
team, the council.
Yeah. Because you've been reading Acts, haven't you?
I have been reading
Yes.
Acts. It's a very exciting
No,
book.
it's good.
But they were sent. This letter was sent to come up with one or two rules, and it actually says we will teach you to gain the freedom from worshipping idols.
Is that what that means then? When they
I assume that's what it
translation,
meant.
yeah.
Certainly it means that we're not imposing it. We're going to help you to see these are important things. The other one was to do with what they eat, which was the very Jewish way that you mustn't eat anything that is strangled and so on. So in a sense you could say that's the no shouting in the corridors. That's the imposed rule at the beginning. I don't know why they felt they needed to do that, but maybe because otherwise they were eating food that had been offered to idols. You see what I mean? So, but I suppose what intrigued me was just their dilemma and how they had to think, we don't want to put them under 150,000 rules. But surely we need some laws. Surely we need some things that are...
Well, to do that, of course, you need to find some fundamental rules that are less, that don't bind you or hold you, but they are the true laws. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of Jesus and the taking the 10 Commandments, and
which had been expanded into these multitudinous
That's right.
small laws. So
And-
everybody was under the cosh, really.
that's right. And actually, he said that there are only two. What he meant, of course. Jesus always says things like that, which teased people. You know, I think it must have driven people mad
They
sometimes.
had a few facets in them, I suppose. But no,
But
there
he-
were essentially two.
He was saying, the important thing is that those two are about relationship. The others are, well, one or two are about with parents, respect for parents and things. There are some relationship thing there. But most of them are about what you don't do. And what Jesus was doing was a couple of things. One was to make it positive, make the law positive, so that it wasn't about what you don't do, which is what you just said. But they wanted to free them from things. And the other was to show that in the end, relationship with God and relationship with each other is absolutely the priority for those who want to be followers of Christ. That's what he was doing.
And as soon as you start thinking about relationship, and I know in every primary school, or hopefully secondary school, but certainly, you mustn't hit each other. You must be kind. The reason you queue is so you don't shove each other and you don't shove in front of somebody who's been waiting there. The rules are actually to do with relationship, aren't they? They're to do with putting other people first as well as yourself, which is very hard for 4 and 5-year-olds.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, but although 4 and 5-year-olds discover after a while that it's a tricky thing, but it works out that not doing what you want has rewards that you never guessed at when you were too little to worry about it. That in terms of making relationships and having friends and finding things working out, you need those. You need that change in your perspective in order to acquire that, don't you?
So do you think they got it right? I mean, what I like about so much of Acts from the very beginning is they took things seriously. I mean, if you remember, way before Paul, there was that dilemma. As soon as they started mixing together the Jews and the Greeks and the other people, it's all very well to say now we're all equal, now we're all following the way, now we're all hunky-dory with each other, but actually there was some great argument that the Greek widows weren't getting as much as the other widows, and so on and so on. And if you remember, what they did was take that very seriously. And
yes, it wasn't an administrative,
no,
just an administrative problem, was it? It was
no.
a problem of rightness, of what was right. And
I suppose so. And they took it. All I really meant was they thought, we need to look at this, and we need to look at it now, because we're involved with something new. And none of the people who've joined this, they're coming from different rule books. They don't have everything the same. The Jews look down on the Greeks, or so on and so on. It's really interesting,
so
isn't
what
it?
was their ploy?
Oh, their ploy, if you remember, was to get together a team of people with some great people, great men. They were men, including Stephen, including Philip, and
so
one or two others.
They chose
significant
figures.
Yeah, they did. Well, to give them the job of sorting out some of these things. I mean, they did also say, because we need to be praying. So that was the other priority. But they didn't say, we need to be praying, so you just sort yourselves out and we'll put on a dinner lady for you. Yeah. They said, we're going to have a team of people who are full of all this new excitement and full of the Holy Spirit to make sure that it goes well.
Why do you think they thought that would make it go well? Having those people doing it.
I have no idea, Adrian. I don't know. Why do you think?
Well, I don't know, but the significant thing seems to be that they didn't choose unimportant people to sort out a problem that might have looked almost trivial.
So it was a valuing of those individuals who just joined, and that was the impression that I got when when they met in Jerusalem to try to decide what to do. I mean, the big one, and we know it, was whether they should be circumcised. Because, of course, if you were Jewish and male, you would have been circumcised. But are you going to impose that onto people for whom that is not their tradition?
I think I might have left the group at that stage.
But I'm not sure that was the reason that they might have left. I think it was that, how can we... There's one point where they say, we haven't even managed to keep all these rules. How can we expect other people who haven't grown up with them all? I just think it's interesting, really.
But do you think they ever had any inkling of the fact that eventually that way of looking at things would go? That
what way of looking? What do you mean?
Well, that you had to have rules which, for a lot of people, perhaps didn't even actually know how they'd started. Some would and some wouldn't.
Oh, absolutely.
But there would be rules, and there still are rules in organisations. One of the people we're going to talk about at the weekend, maybe one or two people who will be there, but was that one from that wonderful series Cranford, where Miss Matty's sister Deborah
I hope some of you know Cranford. It still remains one of our favourite series, I have to say. Right.
I love Cranford, so Deborah is a good woman, but she is a fixed on rules. That's how she lives. And in the village of Cranford, you don't break the rules.
Oh, you don't. Not
because
in Cranford.
If you do, publicly, you will be surrounded by some very judgmental ladies who will
Yes,
tell
they may
you
not
that you're
throw
wrong.
stones at you, but they will make it very clear. That's right.
So the time comes when the question asked of her is, will you join the funeral procession?
Let's put it the context. It's
Well,
a
you
young
can
girl.
do,
Well, it's a young girl
Yeah.
whose sister is very poorly, and the father
That's
has
right,
had to go away.
He's gone away.
So there she is
Yeah.
with the sister who's very poorly.
Yeah.
The sister dies. Her father is not there.
Yeah.
Only men followed the funeral procession, and her father would have done that.
And there's no one
her
to be with
dilemma
her, yeah,
was,
yeah.
I can't let her go to her grave alone. So she comes to see
Well-
Deborah and Matty.
Yeah, and Deborah, we don't know an awful lot about it. What we do know for sure is that Deborah would first of all think, no, I don't do that. Nobody does that.
Well, she does,
And
yes.
we're not going to
in
do it.
Cranford.
But in the next few scenes, we see Deborah sitting on her bed right through the night as she thinks...
Wrestles.
As she thinks, this... Because I'm actually a true believer... This is what's important for everybody, I think, to start to understand. If I'm a true believer, it will need to be possible, and this is what Paul was on about in the thing we quoted earlier on. Then there will come a moment when you have to be somebody else for somebody else. And
So you have to put aside all the things that you still think are right.
you can't even do that. You can not do them, but you have to go out and be visibly the person that you don't want to be, because it is absolutely 100% the right thing. And for her, that decision is a huge decision. It looks ridiculous to us because we just say, I'll go out and walk with you. But in that village at that time, that time in history,
And when the father comes back and says, "Oh, you poor child,
yes,
you were
on
all
your own."
alone,"
Yeah.
she says, "No, father, I was not alone."
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's rather a lot about that. If you get the chance
I
to
don't
see
know.
it, it's
I
really
think
delightful.
I think it's good because it really makes it clear where your priorities have to be. They don't have to be with rules or no rules. Your priority has to be with the demands of love, the demands of care, the demands of relationship. And sometimes you are going to discover that some precious thing you thought you always do or you never do, or you don't believe in or you do believe in, you ditch it temporarily and you become
Yeah, I
somebody
mean,
else.
even as we say this, we know that there are problems with that. I mean, you say, right, I'm going to enter into this person's world. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to run away from it. I'm going to really be there. And then you find things in that world that are really tricky. I mean, because it's not your world. And then you are very challenged, you know, and I mean, I'm only thinking of, well, I'll tell you my own, I think I've mentioned this before, but it's such a small thing, but I retrained as a primary teacher and loved the training and enjoyed it enormously, and I'm going to say got on really, really well with everybody on the course. And then one day we were in a circle and the person in charge said, right, now I want you all to mention the thing that is fundamentally important to you, the thing that drives you, the thing that, and people were coming up with 1,000 different things, and I knew that if I didn't say it's my faith, I could not really, you know, I could say, well, my family, I love my family, I love my husband, you know, etc., etc., etc. I love books, but I knew that I had to say that, and everything changed after that. It wasn't that
In
people.
what way did it
Well,
change?
just simply, if
People
people
being a bit
swore, they
wary
said,
about-
"I'm sorry, Bridget." If it was a really foul joke, they said, "Sorry, Bridget." And I became not of that world. I think it's a real challenge.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I don't know. I mean, that's just one tiny example. I mean, I got on fine with them, but I was miserable, if I'm honest. I thought I've lost my role within this world because I'm not of that world anymore.
But what one hopes that it's only the narrative of your life talking about faith being the most important thing in your life. I mean, if you wrote a novel about somebody who was a Christian or a Muslim or whatever, that would be a large part of what you wrote about.
I know.
The
I
difficult
know.
bit
Yeah.
comes when, as you say, you're rather oddly challenged by other people's expectations or their view of you, and it's very difficult to know how to deal with that.
I would love to know how other people have negotiated this. I mean, it's a massive challenge, isn't it? To be whatever is needed in a particular situation is what you're talking about, isn't it?
It's also very, very difficult to dump things that are your special belief or thought about things that are not actually part of your fundamental faith. And that can be really difficult, because something that we've just called toxic morality comes in, where instead of looking after people, there is a temptation to say, well, you shouldn't be doing this. If you didn't do this, it might be much better. Actually, the responsibility, you may have to say that sometimes, but responsibility, I think, I'm only saying what I think, is to
start where people are.
Start where people are and watch it. Watch out.
I had a wonderful piece of advice just very quickly, Adrian, very recently. There's a young guy and he's started thinking he might like to come to church. But on Saturday night, he gets extremely drunk. And so his argument is that he's never awake on a Sunday morning to come to church.
Right.
He's really nice. And somebody said to him, well, why don't you get drunk on Friday night instead? And then you can sleep on Saturday night and come to church on Sunday. Now, I know that's daft
No,
on one level. And on another level,
good.
it's so wise. It's not saying, oh, well, chappa, you shouldn't be this. Or if you really mean it, you wouldn't do it. You'd make sure. It's laughing with somebody in the best sense and just being comfortable with where they're at without any need to push them.
It's practical assistance,
Yeah,
really.
I thought...
Because it's saying, isn't it? There isn't any issue of judgment.
No.
It's only an issue of how you can live with where you are at the moment and how your life works out.
How you can do both things that you want to do at the moment until you decide, which is where we come back to that letter from the leadership team. No pressure. We'd love to help you too, etc., etc. But we would love to hear other people's dilemmas in this area.
Especially in those instances where you have to make one of these decisions, and it's really tough. That'd be good to hear about. Anyway, I think we've solved Paul's bit of scripture. That's all sorted out. No, it's not. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.